the world.
So do you think watermarking, this technology you talk about, could be an answer to fake videos, fake products, fake everything that can be fake out there?
Well, I would say if you do something like that and the social media platform, when they upload images and they check for the watermark, then they can say, okay, this is authentic. This doesn't have it. We're not going to bring it in.
That makes sense.
And we also are creating...
Hey folks, welcome back to Cyber Narratives episode 5. I am your host, Mathieu Petot, and today we are going through my adventure that I had in the FIC. The FIC, short for Forum in Cyber, was an event that happened in Lille, France, in which I took part last week. And I want to share with you some stories that I heard there. So for the most part, what I feel like is happening in cybersecurity is that it's quite dominated by at least the word of cybersecurity is quite dominated by those who have the money for it, and this often tends to be the solution sellers. So obviously what they're going to try to push forward is a technological solution to everything. And I find that this often turns out to be a bit misleading because technology is one piece of the puzzle that is obviously very cheap to sell, therefore very profitable, but oftentimes it's not really the answer to cybersecurity problems. So I took a different perspective. I spoke to the people that spoke a bit against these ideas, and I felt like it was an amazing opportunity to share this with you guys. Today we're going to listen to 4, let's say, ideas that I heard from the FIC, and we're going to interpret them. So give a little bit of background and then give some afterthought as to what these ideas means, what I think about them, and so hopefully we can, hear some stories and have some fun while learning, which is the whole point of this podcast. So good you're here. So the first person I'd like to introduce to you is called Cassandre Manicom Ramsamy, who works at the Fédération Française de la Cybersécurité. So she works at an institution which helps small businesses and public administrations, usually small, deal with the cyber risk. And so she came up with a really cool idea. I'd like you to hear it. Here it goes.
We create a new job, which is the cyber assistant. And he is someone which is going to interact with all the members within an organization and going to see if you respect all the different rules of just cybersecurity itself, because you put like a password, you don't put your mother's name or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as a password, which is common as a mistake, or just don't click on an email, which is something close to phishing. That is something that the cyber assistance goes for.
And then I asked Cassandre the following: is it smarter to have IT people take care of this position, or instead to have someone else from the organization take care of this position? Here's what she answered.
I mean, within an organization, you have different type of action that an IT guy can do. But maintaining the password, going behind people and asking them for this and that is quite complicated sometimes, because you don't know where people are within the organization, when they have time for that, and whether or not they are receptive to all that. So IT people and this kind of cyber assistant, they interact together, they work together, because cybersecurity is not something yet you do alone. It's a common job.
So here I definitely agree with Cassandre. From my personal experience, I grew up in a family of IT people, and mostly my dad. And when he was speaking something IT, you could always notice that there was something, some kind of doubt, some kind of aversion to risk that always existed. And whenever he would talk about it, we'd be like, yeah, okay, we hear you. It's in your nature to be paranoid about certain things, which I think is right, and I'm starting to get it. But anyway, I think it's more about the fact that people realize that IT people tend to be a bit more paranoid, and therefore say, yeah, you're right. So to add to Cassandre's point, I'd like to share my personal experience to see, IT people are a bit more paranoid, and if it comes from someone else, maybe I'll be a bit more likely. And when you have another thing which I think is truly awesome about this idea is that when it's about people that are policing, if it's a bit of a dirty word, perhaps something else, but checking on each other to support each other, you cultivate much more of a culture of cybersecurity where people care about it, support each other, and teach each other. And I think this is something amazing if you get it to work. Another thing to point out as well is that a lot of time IT people don't necessarily like or want to do this kind of thing. There's one of the many things they have to do. So being able to supplement this with other people is an amazing idea. So Cassandre, I'm truly a big fan of your idea. This is why I'm sharing it here. The next person I'd like to introduce to you is Wendy Chin, and she works amongst other things as the CEO of Pure Cipher. She was one of the panelists at an event that I saw, and I found her ideas very interesting because she contradicted many ideas that I thought, and I'd like to present them here to you. So the first one is the idea of recovery time. It was something that very interesting that I heard a lot in the French sphere, but I wanted to confirm with her what she meant by something. So let's listen to her.
You talked about determining how long a company should aim in order to, let's say, get back on track. How do you advise people make calculations on, say, we want it back in 3 days, in 3 hours, 3 weeks? How would you advise a company making this sort of decision to think about this time?
Depends on who you're serving your audience or who your clients are, right? Mm-hmm. If you're in banking, you need to have fully redundancy, right? Because one goes down, this one kicks in. But if you're in retail and you can afford downtime, like the social media, the platform is down for so many hours, right? Then you can say, how many hours before my customer just go away to some other platform, right? Maybe 4 hours, maybe 8 hours. That's your recovery time objective. Mm-hmm. It's called recovery time, RTP, right? So once you once you have a recovery time objective, you then need to look at recovery point. Recovery point covers at what point of your data that's good that you can recover. And that's what this immutable backup supposed to be is we are immutable. So anytime you have a problem, it can recover from this point. Like we did an immutable backup 2 minutes ago, you can recover from 2 minutes ago. They kind of go hand in hand.
Cool, right? Pretty simple. I think it's very basic out there, but it's something that a lot of companies don't pay enough attention to. When you think about it, a lot of people say, I want to be secure. I want to have, lower my risk. But a lot of time, this is not very mentioned. Like, what do you mean secured? Like, what would happen if a cyber attack would happen? And a lot of people don't have this idea. So this concept of mean time to recovery is the idea that says, hey, when you will get attacked, because a lot of people actually know that you shouldn't say if, but when you get attacked, oddly enough, you should be able to determine how long it will take you to recover and aim for a certain time for recovery, right? Because it all, as Wendy says, it all depends on what you do. And having this information is incredibly helpful. Not only when a cyber attack will happen, you'll know what to do, you'll know how long it will take and what to do, but also by preparing, you'll know what to prepare in order to, let's say, lessen the risk of the attack, which is amazing about it. So when you plan for something, not only are you better at it when it comes, but also you're more prepared in order to avoid the risk altogether, which is amazing. So prepare to a certain extent, but have some ideas of where you want to go when a cyber attack comes. So we spoke about the first idea of Wendy. We have 2 more to go. The second one is quite interesting. I love this one because I took a master's in data management and we learned about a concept which is called the transition that's been going on in the development of applications. So back in the day, let's say 1990s, there used to be a development way which is called mainframe applications. Now, I thought about this earlier today, writing this episode down. Let's imagine that a mainframe application was instead a kitchen. So there's several ways you can have a kitchen being run. Let's say a mainframe architecture refers to having one cook within the kitchen, one super cook that does everything. So it will do the preparation, it will do the sauces, it will do the meat, it will do the veggies, it will do everything, and will do everything super fast, super well. Now, there is a challenge in this, though, is that if you ask the cook to make a change, say customers want truffle in their sauce, And the thing is, it's very hard to change specifically this piece of the code. You have to come in, trying to find exactly where it is, where the source is, and all the code. And it's hard to find it. And when you do, you have to change it. And then maybe some things will, like the dependencies will break, and it will be a bit annoying to change. So that's the first inconvenience. And so we've developed another way of doing things, which is called microservices. So instead of having one big kitchen where one person does everything, you'll have many different kitchen stations with each their own server where they're basically independent. So if you have, let's say, if you need to change one thing, you only have to change one piece of the puzzle, right? The place that's affected. So that's the first advantage. If you want to change, it's easier. And the second one is quite important because nowadays customers may be rushing in at 9 p.m. because you did a promotion. So how do you scale your system? That's when having microservices is awesome. Let's say everyone wants soup all of a sudden at the restaurant. How do you make it work? Well, with one chef, it's kind of hard to scale because the one chef would have to specialize in one thing. It's much harder to do than if things are isolated and compartmented. So microservices are way more adapted to today's standards in terms of development. But as Wendy points out, there are some challenges to it. Let's hear it.
But then when we went distributed architecture, and it's all over the place, and the attack surface is everywhere. You can get in, through IoT of things, which is generally not protected. You can infect one, and you travel into your network. You can infect another, and infect another, if you're not careful. So the attack surface is really big. And with AI, it's even harder to trace because the AI is that good. AI is very smart because I work with really advanced AIs. Yes, very powerful, incredible stuff. And because the technology that's so powerful could be used for bad. You can do great things. You can do a lot of bad things. And so we need to start looking at revolutionize the way computing internet is, right? Internet and even SSL, the current SSL, when quantum computing comes, it will no longer be secure, right? We're counting down SSL to be secure when we send out our personal information, log into our bank account. Quantum computing is here. It's just too expensive. It's going to make that totally obsolete, and we will really be in trouble. So you need to start looking at how do you bring it back into containerized transactional, secure transaction with limited access that can communicate with outside. So like a virtual box, virtual mainframe, that's what I call it. And so instead of distributed architecture, you will have mainframe with really high-speed connections. And each one is like a containerized box with your transaction database, with your AI model sitting in there that uses train and inferences performed by authenticated data. So it doesn't get injected with malware or it doesn't get data poisoning.
Good. So we've learned that we need to close down and understand how our system works, how our applications are working in order to best secure them in keeping our information intact. Now, Wendy doesn't just stop here. She gives an excellent point about how we can make sure that information is authenticated. So for the last point, which also comes from Wendy, she talks about how we can secure the information to make sure that it's authentic. Something which is absolutely critical today. Here's why.
What if you have non-AI generated images? How are you going to deal with, can I tell this one has been tampered with? So you want to watermark all the data that you started generating from the source. And you need to be able to track the data through its life cycle before it go into storage. Once you can do that, then everything that's watermarked, it's good. So just back up regularly. You don't have to worry about immutable backup anymore, right? Because anytime somebody tamper with or insert fake data, the watermark will either be broken or it will have no watermark. Then you know which one is good.
All right. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So from a technical point of view, how do you make sure that data, just over understanding a bit, is watermarked? And how do you attackers will, of course, want to imitate this watermark.
You can't see it. That's why it's called steganography. You have a cover image, and then we put information behind in a stealthy way with our capability. I mean, this is very advanced technology. So we create our AI generated algorithm to do that too. So you have to worry about two things. You have to worry about, first, make sure you insert this and it cannot be detected by a hacker. And a hacker, even if they seen maybe something, they won't be able to tell what it is. And if they try to change something, even if you take an image, you decided, I really don't like Wendy in here, so I'm going to delete her. That image is no longer original, right? So from the data integrity's point of view, it's already been altered. And so you want to make sure all these checked to ensure the very first data you watermark stay the same way all the way through.
And this idea seemed pretty cool, right? So what if we could not only use it for businesses, but also for social media, for the information that we communicate? For instance, taking out all these fake stuff out there. Can we do that?
So do you think watermarking, this technology you talk about, could be an answer to fake videos, fake products, fake everything that can be fake out there?
Well, I would say if you do something like that and the social media platform, when they upload images and they check for the watermark, then they can say, okay, this is authentic. This doesn't have it. We're not going to bring it in.
That makes sense.
And we also are creating like browser extensions so public could actually check for themselves, right? Because at the end of the day, the public need to be able to check, am I reading the right news? Is this real, right? They need to be, so it need to be out there, not just used by so many people. It need to be out there as a standard, as everybody just say, this is what we need to do.
I see.
Good, folks. It was a pleasure having you. We are at the end of our episode of Cyber Narratives. If you want to follow me further, go on LinkedIn. I am at Mathieu Petot. And if you want to message me there, go for it. I'd love to hear your opinion about this, because cybersecurity is always on the move. We always say wrong things. We all say good things, but it's good to talk about it and share our opinion. I would love to see you there. And wish you a beautiful rest of your day.